Well, today with me, I'm joined by a very special guest from the basketball community again. It's a very recurring theme that has become popular on this podcast, seeing as how there are many great students of the game. And our guest today is Elijah Lostracco, who works at Acceleration Performance under the great Sherwin Vassallo and is training the next era of athletes to carry the torch for basketball Manitoba as we speak. So, Elijah, welcome to the show, man. It's great to have you, U of M and Redeemer alum. Can't forget that.
Yeah, no, for sure. Thanks for having me. I'm excited. It's my first podcast.
So, Elijah, you had some crazy times playing at the U of M, getting there during COVID, and not really knowing what to expect. What was your first impression of Winnipeg when you got there?
Yeah, when I got here, I don't have any connection to the city, so um, it was COVID as well, so nothing was really open, and I moved in with Rashawn Brown, former Bison as well. So honestly, like there was not much going on. It just seemed very quiet, but everyone here was super nice, very welcoming. But yeah, like I was just living in the south end of the city, so I only really knew the area around U of M for a good like 4 or 5 months. So just very quiet, very nice people. That was like the only impression I had about Winnipeg.
Was there a stark contrast between your hometown of Oakville versus Winnipeg?
Um, it's definitely very different. Like the the right away I could tell the people here were a lot friendlier. People were just more willing to go to their way to help you. But Oakville being like around the GTA, it's more busy. Everyone's kind of just like worried about their own thing. Where I feel like right away when I got to Winnipeg, there was just that sense of community and like I don't know, just great people around here.
And now that you've found a home in Winnipeg, you've been here for a bit of time and have been working at Acceleration. What's been your favorite thing about living in Winnipeg so far?
Favorite thing about living in Winnipeg, I think, well, one is just way cheaper to live here. That's right off the bat compared to Ontario. It's just affordable. The other thing is I feel like the work you put in Winnipeg can really like go a long way. Like there's just people that are more willing to reach out to you for help or like kind of what's it called? They want to like help you. So like becoming a personal trainer, like people are seeing that and wanting to come and work out with me. They're just way more helpful than people back home, I guess. And just that sense of community again, like um it's just I don't want to say it's easier to make a name for yourself here, but it's just been more welcoming and it's just been like an easier path to kind of like build my name up because I've only been personal training for a couple months now, and just the help I've gotten and all the kind words people have reached out and been saying to me, it means a lot.
And especially when you think about how different things can be when you're done your university career. I know that from having met people who've played lots of different sports, it can be tough to transition from playing at a high level to going into the working world. Did you initially have your sights set on personal training when you finished basketball?
It's always been something I've been interested in. I just never knew how or if I could like make a living doing it. So I always knew I would like want to coach in some way. Um, and then so the how I got into personal training at Acceleration Performance is I did like my co-op. My last thing for my kin degree was a co-op, and I did it over the summer at AP, and I loved it. It was so much fun. It didn't even feel like work. So when the co-op was done, I told Sherwin like, "Hey, I'm looking to apply for, like as a personal trainer at these gyms." And he's like, "Wait a second, like," and he kind of just sat me down. He's like, "I really love the work you've been doing here. Like, it would be great to have you here." And then we just kind of discussed some details, and everything worked out. So now I'm happy with the position I have at this gym, and I'm really looking forward to like keep growing as a personal trainer, and especially in this community.
It's a bit of a different position being in when you're coaching and training people versus when you're playing. What are some of the things that you've learned about yourself so far in the first few months of being a personal trainer that you didn't realize before?
Um, Biggest thing right off the bat is like the whole communication aspect of things and just being personable with people. Obviously, as a personal trainer, you want someone who's knowledgeable. and knows their stuff, right? Has good, unique workouts. But I think the biggest thing is just like being able to talk to anyone and just like being able to keep a conversation and just and just making people's days almost because people coming into the gym, you don't know what their day's been like, what their week's been like, but everyone kind of comes into the gym to get like a mental reset. I feel like that's one of the best things about working out. So obviously you go to the gym by yourself, that that mental reset can happen. But when you have a personal trainer there, that's like your friend that you can talk to and you can laugh with them, but they're also putting you through a hard workout. I just think it can just really change someone's day. And that's the biggest thing I've learned. Obviously, as an athlete, communication is a huge piece, but this is just communication in a different way. Usually you're already friends with your teammates, you see them every day for hours on end, but these people you might see them 2 hours a week, 3 hours a week, and you got to just keep up with them and their life and be able to just hold a conversation with them and almost just be a friendly person to them.
It's I think it's a fascinating idea when you are able to conceptualize the impact that you can make when you're done your career. Because I know that it's oftentimes athletes, especially in basketball, they're maybe not as much as a sport like soccer or something where it's very difficult to go high up, but there are some of those players that are able to make it to Europe or do those kinds of things. But there's a lot of them that aren't always able to make it to that next level or make it sustainable for a long time. But when you're coaching, I think it really brings out a different side of people that oftentimes isn't realized until you're in it. And I'm sure you watch the NBA, and sometimes when you're able to pinpoint, oh, this person's a great coach, but when they played in the NBA or when they played basketball, they weren't that good. But there's something that they know that other people who are very good players can't translate as coaches. How have you found the transition to coaching compared to what your playing career was like?
Honestly, the transition has been way smoother than I thought. Um, I think in my final years of playing, I really took on like a leadership role. And in basketball, and especially the way Kirby coaches at U of M, he really relies on his veteran guys to be like right underneath the coaching staff. So I'm basically like a coach on the court. Like everything Kirby is thinking, I have to relay that to the team. And he's like relying on me to do that. So in my last year, I was captain of the team, and my goal going into the season was just to be the best leader possible because we had a lot of young guys, and I didn't know how well we or how good we were going to be. Like we literally had no clue. Um, just a bunch of young guys. So my mindset was just okay to be the best leader possible. Like at the end of the season, like it's my last year, but my goal was to just like for the guys on the team to be like look back at the end of their careers and be like Elijah was a great leader. Like he was a great person I could look up to as a young player in the league. So I think that my final year really helped me having so many young guys transition into the coaching role because I started to look at the game in a completely different way, just like smaller details, smaller details, what it takes to be a good leader, what it takes to like win games, stuff like that. And as a coach, I feel like you kind of just take a step back and got to think even more outside the box, right? As a player, you're so in the moment, you're so locked in on the game, your opponent, your stats, whatever it may be. But as a coach, you're not caught up in those emotions, and you can really just take a step back and like really look at the bigger picture. And as like a strength coach, I think I've been able to do that, just like passing on my knowledge about how important the weight room is. And then obviously we train a lot of basketball players and like a lot of prep teams and high school guys, young university guys, and just being able to give them advice about their playing careers and the type of mindset that they should be having moving forward.
You guys had there was an interesting game I remember following when you guys played against the University of Alberta in your last year, and a bit of pandemonium there in double overtime where you had to, throw a few triangles onto the clipboard to drop some plays to end up putting you guys in the lead and winning the game. What was that first experience like being a mini coach in a crazy game in Canada West against U of A?
It was I'm not gonna lie, it was like I was super nervous at first. Like we were all in the huddle, just madness in the huddle. Everyone's trying to talk. And then at one point, Rashawn, he was the assistant, but he was acting as the head coach because Kirby got kicked out. He was like, all right, everyone shut the hell up. He gave me the clipboard. He's like, Elijah, write us up a play. And I froze for like 3 seconds. I was like, um, okay. And then boom, something just came to my head. And from there, it was just, I wasn't even thinking about it. And it was a play to get Simon an open three. And it worked. I don't know if he hit the three, but he got a wide open shot off the three. In the moment, I was just, Simon had the hot hand. I was like, okay, what can I do to get him the ball? And it was basically a play that like drew attention to me. And then I just kicked it over to Simon and he ended up being wide open. But yeah, it was stressful for the first couple of seconds, but then it was just what I've been saying about like being caught up in the emotions, right? Because I was playing and I was so caught up in the emotions. So it took me a second to click. Okay, like I don't have to like don't be so caught up in everything. Like, what do we have to do here? We need this type of shot. Okay, who has the hot hand? Simon does. How can we get him the ball? Okay, I've been going aggressive to the paint all game. I'm gonna make a play that looks like I'm about to do that. Take the pressure off Simon. He should get an open shot. So it's just really taking a step back and then breaking things down.
I know that when I had a chat on the podcast with Sherwin about coaching and how he had said that he always kind of stayed away from it, that coaching was something that taught him a lot about himself, especially when he was able to work with the University of St. Boniface for a small bit of time. Now that you are working as a physical trainer, would you ever consider, or is one of your goals to be able to actually work and coach a team in terms of drawing up X's and O's and developing strategy?
Yeah, I would love to coach. Probably as an assistant at first. I think I still to like I think I could definitely coach like a high school team. Um, but I think my strength right now would be like player development, more skills training, um, as an assistant. And then like so if I were to go like work at U of M or something, like just learning from Kirby and how he does his X's and O's because he's by far the best coach I ever had in terms of like, scheming a defense or just like drawing up offensive plays and stuff like that. Obviously, that takes years of experience to do. But yeah, I would love to coach. I love basketball so much. It's literally been my life the last 20 years since I was 4 years old. So um, just being in the gym with the guys, it's a great feeling, and I definitely want to get back to that eventually.
I know that Rashawn Brown, you said that he was your roommate when you first moved to Winnipeg. What were some of the things that you were able to learn from him to help you become a stronger leader?
Um, Stronger leader. I think so. Just the communication aspect of like how to talk to the guys on the team. I think in we're both from Ontario. He's from Scarborough. I'm from Oakville. But I know like we both grew up in very competitive high schools. And the atmosphere is very different. It was kind of like kill or be killed for our high school teams, his more so than mine. But even still, like I went to high school with a lot of guys that either went to play Division 1, a couple of them are playing pro, one made it to the NBA. So it was very like, you know, you just tell someone how it is. You're very like, there's no holding back. And I think when I came here, I had to change that a bit about myself and the way I could communicate with certain guys. Just learning that like, okay, maybe I can really get on this one player, but this other player doesn't react too well to, being screamed at. So that was like the biggest thing I learned. And then from him mainly, he like from the moment I got here, he was like my skills trainer. So he basically like taught me all like the little things he was doing when he was playing. And that was by far the biggest thing. Like going into my last year, what really changed my game was I was doing skills work with Rashawn and strength training with Sherwin. So that was like I was getting coached up and changing my physical appearance by the best trainer in the province. And then I personally think Rashawn is the best skills trainer in the city just because he's a guy who was fresh to the game. Like he had just played and he's a pro. Like if he didn't graduate during COVID, like he would be playing professional basketball at a very high level because he's an amazing player. So just like learning from both those guys was huge.
The you know how they say, like, your environment shapes who you become, and the people you spend the most time around, the 5 people you spend the most time around, is who you end up becoming the average of. And so hearing about your experiences with work training with Sherwin and training with Rashawn, it's not really a surprise that it allowed you to grow into a better player, a better leader. And I think that's one of the most important things in sports that you try to carry forth into your life. As, yes, obviously you're in a team environment and it's very easy when you're playing and you're in school, but then when you're done, what's the roadmap? Where do you go? How do you navigate this path of wanting to still be in a sports environment while knowing that it isn't always a conventional route to becoming a head coach? Because even if you look at, or I've ever talked with Kirby about how did he become the head coach of U of M, it wasn't just an ABC hop, step, and a jump. And
For
so
sure.
this kind of profession, I think, is something that forces people to be very entrepreneurial, and it brings out a lot of great skills, but also it can be very tough navigating this much uncertainty compared to if you were just like, oh, I'm a school teacher, or I work whatever job that's 9 to 5 and it's the same and consistent and I know what to expect.
Yeah, no, for sure. But I think like on the flip side of that is that this job is so rewarding. Like there's no better feeling than like I've been training someone hard for 2, 3 months and they just have like so much progress. And they like every day they come in and tell you like, oh, I've been getting compliments, this and that. Or like, just after a session with someone, like you could just tell they worked as hard as they could. They put the work in, and it's just a good feeling knowing that you're helping people and giving back. And I think like um in the world we're in today, like there's so many like social media fitness influencers and there's so much like BS about like strength training and working out that's going around the internet. So just being able to give like good information to people who might lack that knowledge about personal training or just like helping an athlete reach their next step or reach their goals. Like it's such a great feeling.
I know that you have had the opportunity to work with Matt Koenig, a former guest on this podcast, and he's someone who not only do I love chatting with, but I know has a lot of like, he is the person that embodies the unconventional path of thinking, execution, and the way that he operates and is able to get himself and those that he works with to another level. What are some of the things that you learned or that you've learned so far that seem to be myths or unconventional, or I wouldn't say controversial, but that have how has your perspective changed with the philosophies you have since getting to know him, doing the program, and working as a trainer?
Yeah, so I've only had a few conversations with Matt, but every time I talk to him, I learn something. And I'm taking his flagship program as well. It's been taking me a while to get through it just because I've been so busy. I was finishing school and now I'm jumping into personal training. But I think just like the biggest thing with him is that like you should always be open to learn new things, right? Like there's so many effective ways of doing something. And like you said, like he does like unconventional stuff, right? So like you could be doing something one way and it's working, but it doesn't mean like you shouldn't go and learn from other people. I remember like seeing something on his story that was like coaches should have coaches, right? And I'm full believer in that. Like I love to learn. Like I'm really good at taking criticism, constructive feedback. So I think just like being able to have a person like him that I can reach out to and know like I'm always going to learn something, or no, he'll tell me straight up, no, like that's not good. You should try it like this. Uh is great. And then so like having him and Sherwin right now, and then I'm just hoping to build more connections like that. But yeah, like I said, I haven't had too many conversations with Matt. And a lot of them are like either over the phone or over text. But that's the one thing for sure. It's just like just the knowledge he has, and just like I always keep learning, learn different ways to do something, be unconventional, be creative. All that stuff is huge.
Who have been some of your favorite who have been some of the biggest mentors that you've had over the span of your basketball career in the last maybe 5 to 10 years that have helped to form you into the person and the coach now that you've become?
For sure. honestly, I've been blessed to have a lot of great coaches. So it's gonna start my high school coach, Andrew Sole. Um, he was huge for me. It was really hard for me to get recruited out of high school, and it was really frustrating. And there's probably one or two times where I was like, I don't know, like I think I'll just go to school. And he just really encouraged me to not give up and just keep playing basketball. And he would reach out for schools to me all the time, and he was just always there for me. He would open the gym up for me at 6 in the morning every day before school so I could get shots up before class. Like he was outstanding for me in high school. And then moving into university at Redeemer, we had a skills coach named Divya Rao, and he's a legend, man. Like people in the Hamilton basketball community know about Div. He was getting professional athletes into Redeemer's small little crappy gym at the time and having the best basketball runs and the best personal training in the city. He was training like all the pros in the area, and he was a guy that he got me into Redeemer. He's the reason I went there, and every summer we put in so much work, and he was my mental and my physical mentor at the time. Like it like there was some tough times in college, and he was always there for me. He was like my brother while I was there, every struggle I was going through. But at the same time, like he was always down to get into the gym and teach me something new. So I owe a lot to Divya for sure. Like he really changed the way I think about basketball and just life in general. And then once my time at Redeemer was finished, Rashawn, my first connection to the city, my first friend here, he was big, like I was talking about earlier, just like with the skills training, um, kind of just like letting me know how things run at U of M, giving me the rundown on the city. Rashawn was huge for me. And then now that I'm done basketball, Sherwin has been my mentor and just, teaching me about this business, right? Because, like you said, like this field, you get to be an entrepreneur, but in the kinesiology degree, there's no business side of things, right? But the kin degree is a general degree, right? It's a very open degree. So there's a lot of room to be an entrepreneur within that degree, but I don't really have any business knowledge. So just having Sherwin to just kind of like almost like show me the blueprint of like, hey, this is how you can be successful as a trainer. Cause like I said, it's always something I wanted to do. I just didn't know how I can make it sustainable. Right. So for me, those are like the big four right there. I know you said five, but those four have been like huge. All those guys have had huge roles in my life for sure.
The importance of mentorship cannot be understated. And even when you mentioned what Matt, one of the things that many things that Matt has talked about with how, and I know even Darcy too, and Sherwin, like how coaches need coaches, and the the continuous journey of learning never ends.
Yeah.
Even if you've worked owning a business for 10, 20, 30 years. And honestly, even when you think about, like, I took a degree from the Faculty of Kinesiology and rec management, the business side, so to speak. But when you look at how people operate after school, it really depends on what you make of it. Whether you do kin, AT, phys ed, or rec management, it doesn't matter. And I think in a way, our generation, if they want to make great things of themselves, they have to be entrepreneurial. Like
Yeah.
in some sort of way, you don't have to own a business or be a CEO, but you have to take a lot of initiative. And I think that seeing the work that you've done at Acceleration has probably taught you a lot about that without you even imagining before what that would have been like.
Yeah. No, like just it's just been such an eye-opening experience, I guess. Like in university, you take a bunch of classes, and I don't really like a lot of the knowledge from the classes I don't remember. Like obviously my anatomy and my phys is huge, but other than that, like the classes I took, they don't really have an impact on me now, but it was kind of just like the university taught me how I should go about myself, right? Like you said about taking initiative, like successful university students take a step further to, go get extra help or go do extra research, go have extra combos with their profs, build extra connections in their classes with their classmates. So I think it's just more like university is more about how you carry yourself. And then once you get into the real world and you start working, you have to become an entrepreneur. It's like, okay, yeah, the knowledge from the classes is not nearly as important as like, the connections I made in university, or just like the lessons you learn as like a person, right? So I think that's just been the biggest thing for me. Is in my last year I really tried to um step out of my comfort zone as a student, and just like I joined like the UMAC council, just try to take extra leadership roles and do extra things and give myself extra opportunities to meet people, right? Because I knew in my last year I was never going to be in a place where I'm surrounded by 30,000 young minds. You know what I mean? Once I step out into the real world, you're not going to have an opportunity like that again.
100%, man. And I think I learned that lesson in university very well towards the end before COVID hit. Was you don't always necessarily go to university you don't always necessarily go to university just so you can learn theories and whatever. You go there to meet people, because
Yeah,
how do you make friends? How do you network compared to when you're in university? It's not as easy, not impossible, but that's really what honestly 80% of it is. When you think about what's the difference between going to business school at Western versus business school at Lakehead University, the people you meet and the
yeah,
environment you're exposed to, right? It's not about you're going to
sure,
learn some crazy nuanced theory at Western that no one else in the country knows.
exactly. And like for me, like it's kind of similar because I went from Redeemer to here. Redeemer had like under 1,000 people at the time when I was going to school there, and coming to U of M with 30,000 people. Obviously, when I got here, it was COVID, but my last year, I got a taste of like the in-person, on-campus vibe of the school, and I was like, man, I really wish I got to go here for like 4 or 5 years, because it's just crazy. Like the people I was able to meet in my last 2 years, I was like, if I was able to come here for 4 or 5 years, like who knows the person I would have become, right?
Absolutely. It truly is the experience that you make it, and the skills that you've developed, or the skills that you could even develop when working as a personal trainer or not being able to be exposed to that big student body, just goes to show as you carry forth in your career that it's only going to continue to compound the more that you are willing to network.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's one of the toughest things that people struggle with who are in their mid 20s is learning how to network and learning how to take initiative and be proactive. But I think being a student athlete is definitely an avenue that helps with that.
Oh, for sure. Like just the fact that I can say I played for U of M, and like the success the program's had recently too, it just helps so much. Like just starting a conversation, or just the fact that like there's so many U of M alumni, especially athletes, that just want to help each other out. So that's a great place to start. But yeah, I think the biggest thing is just like, obviously, if you're starting from nowhere, like you just have to be fine with stepping out of your comfort zone, and you just have to become okay with being uncomfortable, and just like having those, maybe they're a little bit awkward conversations or anything like that, but just, yeah, anything that makes you uncomfortable, you should just try and go for it. And it's something I'm still trying to work on. But all the greatest situations I've been in started with a very uncomfortable beginning, and it grew into something amazing.
What would you say is the skills that you want to continue to work on in the next few years that you find you still have a difficult time grappling with?
One of them is just networking myself, being able to just spark up a conversation with someone and kind of sell myself as a personal trainer in that field. That's definitely one thing I would love to get really good at, because it's obviously a game changer, right? Like if I talk to 20 new people a week and I have a 30% sign up rate, I'm still getting, a decent amount of clients coming in every month. So that's one thing I want to work on. And then just kind of like the work study balance. I want to continue to obviously train as many people as I can, but I want to also have the time to like do research and just keep learning, reading articles, watching podcasts from other trainers. Since I've started personal training, I'm still kind of getting used to the schedule, because it's a very sporadic schedule. Like even like a day like today, like I only have a handful of clients, but they're very spaced out. So it's like, okay, like in between clients, don't just go grab food and take a nap. Like, let's read an article on PubMed, or let's like make some programming for some clients, or let's watch a podcast about game day training and how to train for athletes on game days. Just little things like that.
It's yeah, it's something that you have to keep working on. And I know that the world of being a trainer is a never ending journey of learning.
Yeah.
You got to keep going and learning and getting better and evolving. And if you don't evolve, like I remember when chatting with Sherwin, it's like you evolve or you die. There's
Mhm.
no stagnation as a trainer or as a player as well when you're in your career.
Yeah, no, for sure. And yeah, it's like it's an exhausting profession because um especially now there's so many people, so many more trainers, it seems like, right? And everyone's trying to come up with like the next best exercise or something like that, right? But yeah, sometimes it is just better to like stick to the basics, but just keep learning as much as you can and just keep trying to evolve and stay up to date with everything.
What advice would you give to student athletes who are entering their 20s, whether it be they're beginning their career or they're getting towards the end of their career? What advice would you give them based on the experiences that you've had as a student athlete who's finished their career?
Um, do as much as you can in your time as a student. I think a lot of times as a student athlete, you kind of just get caught up in school and sports. And I get it. Like at times, you might have a week where you have two games, you got to travel across the country, and you have two midterms and a paper to write. So, yeah, your whole life is going to be school and sports. But just like make time to have fun, meet as many people as you can, try not to get caught up in things too much. Like, I know sports can be exhausting on your mental health. Obviously, take your craft seriously, work at it as hard as you can, but don't push yourself past limits, right? Don't burn yourself out because at the end of the day, you know, there's more to life than just the sport. But obviously, go as hard as you can every single day. Work as hard as you can. Like I can't say that enough. Like I feel like the one good thing about my career is at the end of it, even if I didn't accomplish everything I wanted to, like I gave it my all every day. Every off season was committed to basketball, right? Every off season was committed to getting better. In season, I was locked in on how to improve myself, how to build relationships with my teammates. But, you know, at the end of the day, I still wanted to go and have fun, make time with my friends, do things around the school. Um, you know, go out on a Friday or Saturday night and just party while you can, right? Because all that stuff's eventually going to end or it's just not going to be as fun anymore. So yeah, just don't get caught up in the moment. Um, be self-aware of like your mental and physical exhaustion. Take breaks if you need to, but at the end of the day, like plan out your days. Stay super committed to the grind, and just know when you have to take breaks and take a step back and reset.
Who's your favorite basketball player?
Allen Iverson.
I was gonna say, like, for some reason, like now that you say that, I'm like, I feel like I can see a bit of the embodiment of his play when you're playing.
Yeah, like that's what I grew up watching. Like I don't know if you know like and one mixtapes.
Oh yeah, of course.
I grew up watching like Allen Iverson and D Wade mixtapes. Both of them just like undersized guards. Um, I'm not like the most athletic guy, but they were like crazy fast, could jump out the gym, super flashy. So that's who I grew up watching a lot of. And I don't know if I necessarily play like either one of them, but I think just like kind of their mentality of just being a dog and like as an undersized guard, you have to be a dog or you're just gonna get eaten alive or you're never gonna make it to the next level. Right. So even though I'm not the most athletic dude, I still think like at times I was just a killer out there and that's what you have to be if you're an undersized guard.
100%, man. I think of um when I think of the career of Allen Iverson, maybe he's not someone who ended up winning an NBA championship, but you look at the mentality that he had with how he approached the game. I mean, it's not a coincidence that he was the person who was on the original cover of the first 3 NBA 2K games.
Yeah.
It's not.
Yeah.
He was another level.
And then even like talking about the championships, it's like he didn't win a championship, but look at the mark he left on the game. Like, look at how many players wear the number 3 because of Allen Iverson. Like, Dwayne Wade literally said he wears number 3 because of Allen Iverson, and he's like the third best shooting guard of all time, right? So even if you don't win a ring at the end of the day, it's just the impact that you have on people. And I think that was something that I wanted to do with my game as well. Is just like, I want my teammates, my coaches to remember me as just like a player that made an impact.
Absolutely, man. That's a great way to approach the game because at the end of the day, when you know that you gave everything, then win or lose, you you did everything, and
Yeah,
you can live with peace of mind knowing that there's no gas left in the tank.
exactly. And yeah, for real. And I feel that now, yeah, I miss playing like crazy, and I still have aspirations to play. But at the end of the day, like I was like, man, it was exhausting. Like I have so much more time for myself and to just learn about things like I didn't even know I liked because I was just so busy playing basketball all the time. Like when I tell you my every summer since I was 12 years old has solely been committed to getting better at basketball. Like that's all I did. I missed out on so many parties, so many hangouts with my friends because I was like, oh no, I'm gonna go to the gym. I gotta be up early or something like that. And now that like I can just I'm like I don't have any guilt of missing a workout. Like I still stay in shape because I'm a trainer and I love to work out. But I'm like, oh, if I want to go do this, I don't have to feel guilty about missing out on going to get shots up. And it's like a bittersweet feeling.
What are some of the favorite things that you've started to do now that you never had the chance to really do before?
Well, I got back into playing video games. Uh, I I hadn't played games like at all like my last 3 years just because I was so busy and I just thought it was pointless because I was like, why would I be playing 2K when I could just be in the gym or something like that? That's one thing I've picked up on. Uh, I've been doing a lot more cooking. I used to really like to cook, and then I just got busy, kind of just started meal prepping like whatever foods, but now I have more time to do that. Uh, Watching podcasts, reading articles, stuff like that relating to personal training. Um, and then just like hanging out with my friends more, making that more of a priority, has been huge for me as well. So I think nothing like so I haven't really picked up anything crazy, but just the fact that like I'm not having a cram schedule, I'm not exhausted, I'm not sore all the time. I have like less mental stress. Uh that's all just been like making it easier to move on from the game, I guess.
Absolutely, man. There's a saying I heard when I was playing football that said, athletes, they die twice in their life. They die at the end of their life when they're no longer alive, and they die when their career ends because you literally feel like you're becoming a new person and this big part of you is just over.
Yeah.
And I do believe it is one of the most difficult things that athletes who played a high level deal with is not knowing when they should let go or when they shouldn't, or the fact that most people, more than 90% of athletes, never get to end their career on their own terms. And it's something that whether it haunts them or makes them bitter or stings them for a long time. And it's a real struggle. And seeing people who lead the charge on changing the narrative or allowing athletes to actually step into a greater purpose than just playing a sport, I think is something that's very important for them to learn how to do and embody as life goes on. Because when you think about how long you play, even if you played in the NBA for 10 or 15 years, you still have more than half your life to do stuff that has nothing to do with playing in the NBA. Right. And that's like
Yeah.
if you're a 0.001% in life, because how many people, like we said before we started recording, how many people I mean, you're not from Winnipeg, but like, let's use Winnipeg as an example. One, that's it. One guy's made the league and
Yeah.
was over 7 feet. So what are the chances that people from Winnipeg end up going to play in the NBA? Super,
Yeah.
super rare. Or even pro, like even people like Emily or Kitomera or AJ you name them, like who've gone to play in Europe or Australia or whatever. Like it's not common, even if you are a great university player. So I think not taking that for granted is huge when it comes to stepping into like not being constricted by your athlete identity, you know, like more than an
Yeah.
athlete. I know it's something people throw around a lot, but what does that really mean, you know?
Yeah, no, I agree for sure. And just like that transition period, it's something that like I can't even really explain how hard it is. Like until you actually have to deal with it. Like obviously like as an athlete you're thinking about it. Like, oh, like, I only have 5 years, like it's gonna end eventually. But until you're actually in it, like the emotions you go through, it's something I've never really experienced before because I've been playing basketball since I was 4 years old. I finished playing when I was 24. Well, I still would like to play, but my athletic career finished at 24 for university. And like I was like, hey, what now? Like my whole life I've been a basketball player. Like now that's not guaranteed. Like there's no guarantee I'm gonna get a pro contract. So what do I do after this? And it's a crazy mental game. And honestly, you just gotta take things one day at a time, stay positive, and just I find it helps if you just keep if you can find another passion that plays a huge role in it. Like being able to transition right into strength training, like without any hesitation, really has been huge for like my mental health. I think because it's always been tough, but personal training is becoming a new passion where some people sit for months, maybe even years without finding like, okay, what's next? What do I love to do? Because this is all I've been doing. I've only been a football or soccer or basketball player for the last X amount of years. So like what I don't even know who I am. Like what do I like? I've been so busy doing everything else. Right. So personal training, I've been blessed to just kind of have this fall in my lap. Right. But yeah, it's there's definitely there needs to be more people out there like reaching out to athletes and kind of helping them find their next step after they're done playing.
It's something that will, I know, continue to be discussed amongst athletes, and I think should just be talked about more in general. But seeing the path that you've carved with personal training and getting into that is tremendous because oftentimes, like we were saying, a lot of people who finish their athletic career, they, especially when it comes to playing at university, immediately want to jump to the first thing that's the first lily pad of safety. Oh, I did this degree. It's time to cling to this blanket of security as quickly as possible because
Yeah,
I can't go a month or two more about with feeling uncertainty about my direction in life, and hence even the reason of having this podcast and having these conversations is because yeah, a lot of people in their 20s are lost and see a lot of people who are older having success, not even knowing what they want or why they want it, and then doing things because other people tell them that they should, and then they don't know how to listen to their own intuition or how to develop their own voice or idea of what it is that they should do because they want to do it, not because they're following a script written by somebody else.
yeah, no, for sure. And I think like that's one interesting thing you said talking about when you're in your mid 20s, you're looking at like you come out of university and you start working with people who have this success. And I find, especially with athletes, like athletes are usually very ambitious people. I know I am. So like, I look even like me working with Sherwin. So I come right out of school and now I'm working with Sherwin, who's built this great business, owns his own gym, has all these professional clients. And I'm like, I want this. Like I want my own gym. I want my own professional clients, right? But Sherwin did this over 20 plus years. And I couldn't even imagine the amount of ups and downs and battles that went into it, right? But me just being the person I am, I'm coming out right away. I was like, how do I get this right away? And then so just like being able to take a step back and be like, it takes time, but just like knowing that I have another passion to work towards, and it is something I love to do and I want to get better at. I know that like it's going to be just like basketball, right? I didn't become a good university player over the course of one summer. It was building blocks of many consistent summers. So I'm going to approach personal training the same way.
I mean, and even look at some of the people you're already training, like you're literally training and working with probably the people who are the best active athletes who play basketball innocent who are from this province. Like,
Yeah, it's a blessing. It's crazy to learn. Like last summer, I was in the gym working out with them. Now I'm coaching them. Like someone like Keith, like that. Like when I first started doing workouts with Keith, like it was a bit intimidating because I was like, well, how am I going to tell this guy what to do? But the more I started learning about personal training and kind of like observing uh, the movements he likes and like the movements Sherwin programs for him, by the end of the summer, like I was making a lot of programs for Keith, and it was just me and him working together. And and yeah, it was a lot of fun, and I think he appreciated the work too. So that was a really rewarding feeling as well.
they say that when this when this when the student is ready, the teacher appears, but when the student is, is like has graduated, then the teacher disappears, right? So being able to work with Keith must have been an incredible experience of just working with him one on one from like before. You're like, oh my goodness, this guy like did all these things. He's such a great player. Like how like you said, how the hell is he going to listen to what I have to say?
Yeah, and that's the same with like Emily Potter too. That's another person I got to work with a little bit, and like the unique thing about acceleration performance is that we tend to individual needs, right? There isn't just one specific program. So like Keith and Emily are very different athletes, very different players. One's a center and one's a guard. You know what I mean? They need complete different things. So it's like it's just a big learning curve. But just being able to learn how to program for both of them and tend to their needs, that's something that's really going to help me in the long run, I think. Um, like you're going to see so many different types of athletes come through the door. And in my first summer as a personal trainer, I got to coach probably like the two best active pros for their respective positions, right? Like, Jared too, but Jared he was in and out quick, and he battled with like a lot of knee injuries this summer. So Sharon was mainly with him, but that's like another pro I kind of got to observe from a distance more so. He's who's another amazing Winnipeg basketball player, right? Who comes to train here. So just seeing how all three of them are such high level players, but all of their training is very different. And that's just one thing, like just being able to observe or program for them, it was a really cool experience.
Absolutely, man. They're all tremendous athletes, and being able to have that experience, I'm sure teaches you a lot about not only yourself, but how to become a better trainer and how to program to different people's needs depending on what level they're at, what position, everything. Because that is where the world of training is going. It's not just like back in the day where you put a VHS tape in from some person and then just watch and thousands of people follow along the same generic workout. No cookie cutter, no fitness cults, workout classes, none of that stuff.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Well, Elijah, I want to thank you for having been on today's episode. It was fantastic getting to chat, getting to learn more about your career, playing basketball, training people, and learning how to blossom and continue to learn to become the best version of yourself in whatever capacity that is, whether you're playing, you're coaching, or whatever it may be. So I appreciate the time that you spent joining me on today's episode.
For sure, man. Thank you so much for having me.